turn it off, but we'll turn it back on if it does. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, we're
We'll watch it.
ready to get started with our Board of Trustees Finance Committee, work session. And, starts at 7, so it's 7. Review substitute compensations.
So Ms. Hurd's gonna go over that for you all today.
Madam Chair, Superintendent Wilson, Mr.
Superintendent
Price.
Wilson.
It's fine.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, Madam
It's
Chair,
fine.
Superintendent Kelly,
It's fine.
10 years is a hard time
Hard
to
to-
break. Mr. Price, Mr. Dukes, Mr. Thompson, and Mr. Haywood, thank y'all for being here tonight. We are gonna start out by talking about substitute pay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Oh,
Here you go. I have one. I have an extra.
we added one thing, we added. Okay, so I know that there was some discussion or that we wanted to just look at our teacher substitute pay hours as compared to some of the districts around us. We've had a question about that recently. And so we looked at the teacher substitute pay for the 5 Anderson districts, Tacony, Pickens, and Abbeville County. And, you can see what we did in the far left-hand column is a non-certified substitute. So they could have a 4-year degree, but it not be a teaching degree. That could be a, high school diploma, but, that would be a non-certified person in the classroom. That's the first column there. And as you can see, Anderson 5 is the highest. For Anderson 5, that $90, you do have to have a 4-year degree to get the $90. So I'm not sure if maybe some of the other ones you do not, but for Anderson 5, I do know the 90 is for someone with a degree,
Oh,
but
wait
is
a
not
minute.
certified to teach. So for example, if I were gonna be a substitute teacher in Anderson 5, my 4-year bachelor's degree is in accounting. So I'm not a certified teacher, so if I were gonna substitute at Concord, I would make $90 a day. But if Dr. Kelly was going to go in and substitute in that classroom, and she was only gonna do it for 1 day, you look at the second column, that she is a certified substitute, which means she has her teaching credentials. So anybody.
So that $90 is high school and 2 years.
No, I think that, because we're substitutes, I think that means the 4-year, degree. I think it's a little bit less, I'll need to find out exactly what that is.
But basically, we're in line with everybody else.
I'm sorry?
A little bit better.
Basically, we're in line or better than
Yes, sir.
everybody, then I would.
Yes, sir, we're in line,
Okay.
Ms. Leverett, I'll give you that. I believe the certified pay is, now, Ms. Leverett, in assistance pay, we do have high school 2-year and 4-year for our assistants.
Mhm.
But for our substitute teachers, we do have that as well. I just want to clarify, I think this $90 that you have in front of you is if you have a 4-year degree.
Okay, and that's substitute teaching.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not
This-
being, in the classroom.
Yes, ma'am. This is not teaching assistants or anybody else.
Assistant.
This is
Okay.
a classroom teacher substitute. And so as you can see, Anderson 5 is, in the higher quadrant. If you are a certified teacher outside of Abbeville County, we are the highest. They do pay $155 starting day 1. We gradually go up after you do 10 days consecutively. We call that a long-term sub. And after the 10th day, we increase ours to $150 per day. So you can see there are some districts less than us. Anderson 1 pays less on all 3 of the categories from us. Anderson 2 pays less than us, except for the long-term subs. They actually are paying teacher daily rate if you are a certified teacher and you come back and you sub in one of their classes. So if you look down at the bottom of your page, you will see that it says Anderson School District 5, 24.25 daily teacher rate. If Anderson 5 chose to go that route, we would be paying anywhere from $263 to $482 a day if we choose to pay daily rate. And that just depends on what your credentials are. Do you have a master's plus 18? Do you have a PhD? Do you have a bachelor's degree? 1 year, 10 years? They just pay it straight off the teacher salary schedule. And so I just wanted you to see the range that would be for us. Pickens County does pay more than us on their long-term teacher subs. They pay $218 after 30 days of making $105. And then if you look in the far right column, that says services provided by, Anderson 1, 3, 4, and 5, we use a service called ESS. That's what most people you'll ever hear it called by is ESS. Their official name is Educational Staffing Services. It's a little complicated because in finance, I have an ESS as well, but it's called Employee Self-Service. And that's where employees can go look at how much they haven't taken out on their W-4, how much vacation time or sick time they have left. So when we're speaking inside Anderson 5, we always have to clarify, is it ESS that's our substitute service, or ESS our in-house service for our employees to check on their vacation, sick leave, and withholdings. But as you can see, Anderson 1, 3, 4, and 5 use ESS. Pickens and Oconee uses Kelly Services, which is again just another substitute service. And when Anderson 5 put their service out for bid, Kelly also bid on that, but ESS was cheaper for us. And then Anderson 2, they do it in-house, so they just have somebody in-house that's making the calls, doing that. Mr. Dix probably remember the days that we did that.
That's impossible.
It's hard. And so just one other thing that I want to make sure that everybody's aware, the rates that you see on here, if the school district is using one of the services, the rates that you see is what the teacher gets. And all the other school districts have fees on top of that ESS charges us to manage the program, but these are the actual dollar amounts that the teacher or the employee receives when they substitute. So I did just want you to know that when we have a teacher that goes through ESS and we pay them $150 a day, that's probably $200 a day that Anderson 5 is paying that company, and they're paying that teacher $150. But we're not paying their benefits, so they are, again, they're not getting retirement, but the FICA and all of the mandated requirements, Anderson 5 is not having to pay that. Additionally, they're not considered employees, so they're not on our workers' compensation, so that brings that down a little bit as well.
Amy, I know ESS is not yours, that's in personnel, but overall, we've had them, what, 4 or 5 years?
We have.
So, how would you rate, or how do you think they're rated?
I think
They've gotten better.
Yes, I was gonna say, I
They've
think we're
gotten
getting
better over the last 2 years, because prior to Kelly joining HR, we were having a lot of absences not being covered. We just were not having percentage of absences. But since Kelly has taken it on and really worked to build that partnership and communication, it has been much better. It's been
And
much
we
better.
were coming out of COVID as well.
But
Yeah,
now this
People were
past
scared to go
month,
back.
That's right, yeah.
this past month, with all of the sickness going on, it has hit the schools all at the same time, so they've had to do a lot of covering with in-house.
For sure.
Yeah.
But to your point, our schools are very happy that the principal, assistant principal, and secretary are not getting phone calls at 4, 5,
Oh,
and
sure.
6
Yeah.
a.m.
Oh, yeah.
to have to suddenly start trying to pick up the phone and call people to try to come in. And it is nice that with this system, if I know that I'm teaching 3rd grade and I've got, let's just use this, my child's graduating on May 22nd and I'm a 3rd grade teacher, it's not good because that's the end of the year, pretend it's not the end of the year, and I needed to be out, I can go ahead and schedule that right now. So I can go ahead and put that in Kelly, I'm sorry, we're not Kelly, we're ESS. put it in ESS and say, I need to be out May 22nd and I need a sub, and people can go ahead and pick that up now. So it's nice that, you know, if you're doing that in-house, somebody's got to keep a calendar, and we got to remember when it gets closer that, hey, I need this class covered. This one already has a major system. You can go out in, go ahead and schedule it out in advance. People can go ahead and pick it up. And I think we do have a pretty good pickup rate if it's not, we called in at 4 a.m. in the
Oh, sure.
morning.
Yeah.
You know, suddenly I'm sick and nobody knew. I think there's sometimes those aren't picked up. I think we're getting better. Any questions on substitute pay?
Just one more question,
Yes,
and I
ma'am.
just cannot get this together. $90, non-certified. So that's just a high school,
No, ma'am, I think that's a 4-year degree.
you did say that, so that
I
means
think it's
that,
like 75, I think it might be 75, 85, and 90. I don't have that with me.
that's
I may
okay.
have it in this book somewhere, but I can find it. I know
So you
that
don't have the high school diploma, price, score on here? This is
sorry.
just certified people?
Yes, ma'am. This is just certified teachers, and we're always gonna try to get, first, we are always gonna try to get a certified teacher in a classroom to take on that. So we're gonna try to get that $120 person. That is always gonna be our priority, because they've been in a classroom, they know how to manage, they know the curriculum, that's the plan. And then if we can't get that, then we were gonna go back to a 4-year degree person. Can't get that, then we're gonna go down to the high school. I'm not sure that we have a 2-year in the substitute. I think it's $75 for high school, $90 for, you have a 4-year degree, and then it's certified.
Well, what do I make with no degree?
You would be high school.
And it'd be what? How
I
much
think
money?
it's $75 a day.
Oh, that's what you're saying, so
Yes,
you
ma'am.
think it's 75?
I will find out.
No,
when
no,
I-
that's
When we're
fine.
going over the next part, I will pull up some documents that I have. I apologize.
So
if you-
this is not true for me.
I thought we had it in the salary book, and it may be here, just not tabbed, but I have a piece of paper that I can.
Okay.
Is there any push from personnel to raise the long-term sub pay? Because if you have a certified teacher and they teach for 10 days and it's a long-term situation or turns into one, so they're at 120 for 10 days, and then after 10, they go to 150, so they're getting a $30 raise a day. Is there any push is personnel okay with 150, or are we short? Finding people, would it help if we raise that a little bit?
I'm sure it would always help.
It would help, I mean, but it's finding them, just
Yes.
like, so what we have done this year, because we couldn't find a certified teacher, was we have paid teachers to plan after school, so that they can take their planning period and help us in another school. For example, Jennifer Wilson, she's a phenomenal math teacher. I mean, tell you phenomenal. She was my children's teacher. So she is teaching at Glenview this year, actually technology. I'm not sure how she got out of math, but she's teaching technology, but she had another period that she had for her planning,
Right.
and she was willing to go to Robert Anderson to teach a math class for us because we could not find a certified teacher. And those children needed a certified teacher. So we've done a lot of that. We've done the same thing in high school. So, you know, teachers in high school have those 4 blocks. One is planning. Math, for whatever reason, this year has been the year of needing, and we cannot find certified teachers, so we pay the math teachers planning after school for them to work during that time to cover a class. So that's what we've utilized this year when we could not find.
And they're getting
certified.
in those situations, they're getting their daily rate. If
We
they're teaching that
actually-
for.
We actually changed it.
Yes.
We just
Oh.
changed it.
Yes.
And for the high schools, well, we did this for some middle school too.
Yes,
For
we
Jennifer
did.
Wilson,
Yes, we
this
did.
as well. If it's a 90-minute period, they get $125 per day that they teach that. So that was the 90 minutes plus
30
a little bit
minutes.
of planning time.
Mhm.
So,
I think we gave half of planning,
Mhm.
third.
Third.
We gave a third of the planning,
right.
and then, so 30 minutes planning and 90 minutes, so we did 120 minutes is kind of what it was. And then we just kind of averaged it out, and it's $125 a day. We did the same thing for 45 minutes, and it's
250,000.
75.
Okay, I mean, for a fourth of a day, that's probably more than what they made the daily rate. That's not bad.
That's not too bad.
That's,
And for a 45-minute period for like Ms. Wilson, she
Right.
gets $75 a day.
that's good.
So
It's a win-win, because our kids are getting the best of the
Well, you get a
best,
certified person.
and we're not wasting time. So, and that's just, we've just started that this year.
Started
We
that-
didn't do that
We
last
started
year.
that this year,
Yeah.
we made the implementation in January, but we corrected
Yes.
everybody that worked in
Yes.
the fall to make sure they got the other. Didn't wanna be unfair to anybody.
Good deal.
Any other questions on subs? All right.
Okay. Well, I'm going to come down and talk about teacher-pupil ratio. That is what I believe the agenda said TPR. That's what that means, teacher-pupil ratio. What you're going to see at your screens and on the monitors, this is what we've been doing for the last 3 years, and looking at enrollment, and then looking at the ratios that the district currently has for classrooms. So if you'll look at the bottom, I'll take the mouse right here. So right now, the district ratio is 2 teachers for 25 kids in kindergarten. That's a teacher and a teaching assistant. And then 1st through 3rd, it's 1 teacher for 21 students. And then 4th through 8th, it's 1 teacher for 25 students, okay? So what you're seeing is, and these numbers here, if we have schools with self-contained special education students, they are taken out of this number, so that we can get a true number sense of how many general ed students are in each homeroom. So for Calhoun, when we looked at it, they had 3 teachers in kindergarten this year. Their enrollment as of February 21st is 57, so you'll give them the same amount of teachers for next year. Because if I change this, and let's say we took a teacher away, or we add a teacher, if you give them an additional teacher, it makes their ratio 14.25. But every teacher you add is $100,000. Okay? So we'll take this back. So what you'll see is, like in the red, let's see, this is Calhoun. Calhoun had 57 first grades. And let me tell you this, the kindergarten number that you're going to see, that's an estimate. We haven't had kindergarten registration at all. So what we do is we take the current number that's in kindergarten, which is 57, and we just predict that that's what it's going to be next year. So those current kindergartens that are sitting there right now, 57, next year there'll be 57 in first. Right now, they have 4 teachers. Well, their ratio, if I kept all 4 in first grade, they would have 14 in the class. So if you take 1 teacher away, they're still under that ratio of 1 to 21. And that's what the red means. So for 2nd grade, they keep the same amount, because if you don't keep the same amount, then it's too much. The classes are too large. And so in 5th grade, they have 65 moving up to 5th grade next year. With 3 teachers, that puts them at 22. So Calhoun is losing 2 teachers. Now I want to make sure when I say that, no one's getting fired. What that happens is through attrition. People transfer out, people get married and move to a different district, people retire. So right now, Calhoun is scheduled to lose 2 teachers. And I say it that way because we don't know what enrollment will do from now until May. But we'll check it periodically to make sure this is still true, okay?
So the first grade at 57, is that a step up or is that from registration?
No, so the first grade from 57 is actually the number of kindergartners right now sitting
Gotcha.
in that school. So every number you see is the grade before. So right now, in 4th grade, there are 65 kids sitting there. I think that's it, 65, I don't have classes.
Mm.
Yes. So those 65 will be moving to 5th grade next year.
Yeah, 57 is a concern, because
Yeah.
if that trend continues, I mean, you're at 76 in second, but 60s and
Yeah.
that's dropping. Wow.
So Centerville, here's the same thing at Centerville. That's why they're always going to be the same, because we're just basing it on what we have right now. So right now, there are 77 kids sitting in kindergarten. Those 77 will go to first. Right now, they have 5 teachers sitting in first grade. But the 77 coming to them, they can lose a teacher and still be under that ratio. Now, let's talk about this one right here. Now, I want to think, yellow was Title I, or was that special ed? That was Title I, right? Yes. All right, so in a Title I school, which Centerville is, you'll see the general fund gives them 4 teachers. With 4 teachers, their ratio is 1 to 24. Now, you see, in 4th grade, they can have up to 25 per the district ratio. But because they're Title I, they can purchase a teacher with their Title I funds to make the class sizes smaller. And so we did have Centerville's budget meeting, and she did say that she is planning to purchase a teacher. So, I'm gonna change the number so that you can see, with her purchasing the teacher from Title I and the 4 you all are giving her out of general fund, that would be 5, that's what her ratio will be in fifth grade next year. But for general fund purposes, I wanted you to see what general fund was paying for. So she'll lose one teacher here, but not really, because she's going to add a teacher. Is that, am I following? Is that good? Okay. All right, Concord. Concord, you'll see the same thing, just like what Mr. Dukes was talking about. We have 106 kids sitting in first grade right now, but only 81 in kindergarten. Okay? So we're just using those projections. 81's coming next year. Could be less, could be way more. We don't know until we have registration. So with 81 coming up, they have 6 first grade teachers. They have to lose 2. Because if you keep 6, well, it's under the ratio. Because we said first grade is 1 to 21. So they'll lose 2 teachers there, but then, all right, now Amy, I wanna make sure, the 6 to 4, and we've got, oh yes, right, -2 there. I don't have my boxes on my yes. Okay? Homeland Park. All right, so Homeland Park, again, they currently have 110 kids in kindergarten. That's why we're moving those to first, and we're just hoping 110 come. So they'll keep their 5 in kindergarten because it keeps them under the ratio. They will lose a teacher in first grade because they're under the ratio with 6. First grade is 1 to 21, they'll have 18. And then, but in second grade, you see how they're having 128, they'll add a teacher. So really, they don't lose a teacher. They'll take one from first grade and put it in second grade because they'll need that teacher. Any questions? Okay. All right, the police, and I can go through every school. Is that what you want me to do, or you just, no, Ms. Leverett, you don't want me to? That's fine.
It's
I don't have to.
whatever.
Would you mind just clicking, because right now we're -2 so far?
Yes.
Can't you just keep going?
I sure will. So McLeese is -1.
That's 3.
Okay, let's see. Midway is
Wow.
-2.
Wow. Okay.
Nevitt is adding 2. Adding 2 to Nevitt.
3.
New Prospect is -2. North Point is -1.
But if the children come back, or if you have more children, you'll have to add a teacher there.
Yes, ma'am. So if the children, and we'll keep monitoring this, that's why we have formulas in here, so all we have to do is add the number of kids and it'll change it, so that we can quickly see at a glance. If more children enroll between now and May, we'll get that teacher back. It's not an issue at all. Okay? Let's keep going. Let's see. Verenis is going to lose 2 teachers.
But she could buy.
Yes, she can buy with Title I. She can buy with Title I.
Know what you mean when she
Yes,
do.
and we give Verenis 5 assistants, teaching assistants out of general fund. That's about $250,000. So I wasn't happy about these class sizes right here, especially out of Title I. So when I talked with Ms. Barr, was it today? We've done so many yesterday. When I talked with Ms. Barr yesterday, I gave her the option. I said, you've got 5 teaching assistants that you equate to about $250,000. That'll give you 2 teachers. Would you rather have 2 teachers? She said, no, I want my teaching assistants. So we gave her that option. So,
That's a pretty powerful statement.
yeah, so we gave her that option. Whitehall is even. They're not losing or gaining at all. All right, then middle schools.
So I lost track. Amy, how many, do you know, any idea?
We do, it's
No.
down here. It's right.
All right.
So, losing 11 teachers from elementary and losing 1 from middle.
Wow.
So we'll keep doing this, we'll keep looking at all of these, and we'll update it. We'll make sure the numbers, Ms. Leverett, so that they aren't over the district's ratio, and ensure that we have that per children. Any other questions about teacher-pupil ratio?
So the district's ratio is just something that you set, or that?
Actually, it was a little bit higher, was it last year that I think it was last year that we lowered it, Amy?
Your first year superintendent.
my first year superintendent. So it was higher, and so I did lower it last year, but yes, I just lower it based on we look at the budget, how much money do we have? We don't wanna raise millage, we didn't raise it last year, so I was able to do that. And so it used to be, let me go back to an elementary. It used to be 2 to 25, but this right here, I think it was 1 to 23. 1 to 23, so we lowered it to, this has always been 1 to 25.
And
Yes, sir.
we compare that to our surrounding districts, so we don't wanna be out of line.
Yes.
They're, if they were 1 to 18, we don't wanna be 1 to 21.
Yes.
In
And I
kindergarten,
do want to make, I don't think we overlooked this, but I wanna show you this, so that you know our process and what we're doing. At Midway, right here, Midway could have lost a fifth grade teacher, I believe. They could, it would've been 25. But what we took into account for Midway has, if you'll see right here, self-contained, and some of these self-contained students in third, fourth, and fifth, they mainstream, meaning they might start their day in their self-contained special education classroom, but they might come out for an hour for reading, or they might come out for science. They might come, and when I say come out, they come out of that class and go into a general education class. It's very successful. But when you do that, that puts fifth grade having more than 25 kids. So we gave him, we left him with the same amount of teachers and didn't take one, so that we could make sure we serve our kids well.
And those principals that have that are good because of numbers.
Yes, yes. So,
Are there any regulations that govern those ratios at all, or is it really at our discretion?
Kindergarten.
well, no, there
Kindergarten.
are state regulations, but we're way below that, and I don't have them memorized, but I
No,
only think it's
that's
1 to
fine.
30.
kindergarten's 30.
Yeah, there are state
We've never-
regulations, yes, sir, but we are way below those.
I think middle school's good.
Kindergarten's 30. I'd have to look
I
at it.
don't know the one.
We're below it.
We're
Yes,
below
yes,
it.
we're
We're below
Yes.
it.
Yeah, we're way below it, yeah.
No one else is here but me. Do you mind if I ask a
Sure, go ahead.
You didn't sign in.
3 minutes.
No, I was just saying, that's $1.2 million in savings just by, losing those teachers. Well, teachers, it's $1.2 million. If you didn't lose them, how would that affect your teacher-pupil ratio?
Oh, so, okay, so let's just play with the numbers. So let's look at Midway. If I didn't take this kindergarten teacher and I left it at 5, kindergarten would have 17 in the class. I'm gonna put it back at 4 so that I don't mess this up. If I didn't take that teacher from first grade at Midway and I left it 6, first grade would have 15 in the class.
So basically, you could lower your, you could use it in any grade you needed to. Like, if you gave each school a teacher, you could use it in whatever grade you wanted to lower
You
it.
could, but we don't get funded for teachers that we don't need. I just wanna make sure, because the state funds us for teachers based on our enrollment.
Yes, that's correct.
And-
And just with my concern with that at this particular moment in time, again, I'm not trying to balance any budget ever on the backs of teachers,
No.
ever. That is not, definitely not Dr. Kelly's, directive, and it wouldn't be my recommendation. But at this point, without knowing required health insurance, retirement, teacher step increase, what the board wants to do with the teacher, salary increase, I wouldn't give all that back yet, because I know we have the assistants. These two, again, it was pure luck, we haven't done anything, but that's close based on your calculation, there. As to, I wouldn't balance it yet, I keep everything on the table. That's where I would be at this point.
And
Again, that is just my professional opinion.
I think if we got really, like you just ran those numbers, you had some really low teacher pupil ratios. Kim Morgan's gonna come knocking about title, because we can't be,
Yes,
we can't be
yes,
lower than
yes.
title
No,
schools
we cannot.
Yes, that's correct.
in a non-title, so.
That's correct.
We have to watch that very carefully.
Yes, that's correct.
And just while we're speaking of that, the title, schools will be set after April 1st. So right now, everything that we're discussing with our Title I schools, we're saying if you received a similar allocation next year that you received this year, would you want your reduced class size? Do you want your reading interventionist, instructional facilitator? You know, are there people that you don't think you're getting your bang for your buck on? We're having those conversations, but we won't know, we'll have really true hard conversations after April first, but we don't really know when we'll get the federal allocation, because y'all are hearing the same thing we're hearing. It may be cut, it may be sent to the state under a new formula. So we're a little bit in limbo with title right now. We're kind of scared to go just put a bunch of money into it, and then come July 1, have to go cut a bunch of people.
If all things were the same, is there any feeling about West Side, which way it might go?
You have to have a poverty index of 75%, and last year it was
73.59.
Yeah, so
And the
depends.
police is right there as well.
Yeah, so,
Oh, wow.
so if West Side, and that is a great question, because if West Side is identified as Title I, it will take all of the money, the majority of the money for West Side, and so all of your elementary schools will not have hardly anything.
Mm.
Because they don't give us any more money. They just take the same pot we have and say, okay, the school that has the most students, they get the most, and then it goes down from there.
So
they
a
don't give
high
us
school-
extra money.
Okay, so I didn't know a high school was a Title I school.
Yes, ma'am, if they have 75% poverty index, they can be identified as Title I. Yes, ma'am.
Is that good or bad?
It depends on how you look at it. It's good if you need additional financial resources to help your school. It's bad because you're labeled at risk.
And it'd be robbing Peter to pay Paul. I mean, because it's so much bigger than these elementary schools, so much of the pot would go over there and it would leave less for the
You're gonna
elementary.
lose your interventions at that.
Yeah,
And
you
you really need
Yeah.
it at the elementary
You need it
school.
elementary,
Yeah.
because you gotta get them ready to get to
Yes.
the high school, so.
Any other questions about teacher-pupil ratios and the process we use, how we're managing that, looking at that, and trying to ensure the best for our kids? No? Okay. All right, Ms. Bird, I'm gonna let you come back and we will talk now about policy DIG.
Okay, I wanna make one clarification that I made earlier, because I promised y'all that I would get you an answer, and I have it. And Ms. Leverett, if you are a substitute teacher and you don't have teaching credentials, so you and I both are teaching at a school, you and I both make $90. So we no longer have the high school rate and the 4-year rate. So you're either a non-certified classroom teacher or you're a certified classroom teacher. So you and I would be the same, you would make $90 a day in a classroom.
Okay, but see, you have non-certified, that's different.
So,
Okay,
that's right,
okay,
I'm
that's
getting to what
different.
you want, I
That's
promise,
different.
we got it. Okay,
Okay, that's different.
all
Okay.
right, so, Ms. Wright, let's see. I'm gonna get you the whole deal again. I got you. Mr. Bradshaw.
Okay.
Mr. Hager, yes, I do have it, you haven't picked it up. Let's try to spell it this way.
I'm sorry. All right, Mr. Thompson, it's 30 for kindergarten through 3. South Carolina is 30 students, and 6 through 8 is 40.
From earlier today.
It's crazy to me, but DIG. Yes, ma'am, I have, I'm good, yes, ma'am, thank you.
Okay. Okay, well, we back now to the school, to what I always ask you about. We're back to the,
No, I
See-
got one more thing before that.
Oh,
We're gonna
okay.
talk about a board policy.
okay.
If that's where we are on the agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
So this is just, there is no urgency for this policy. There is no requirements from any legislative body for this change to be made. As you can see, we adopted this budget in 2009. And I know that Mr. Thompson and I and Dr. Kelly have had a conversation as we were talking about our long-term debt, and when we issue bonds, how our fund balance impacts our ratings with rating agencies. And obviously, they want to, if they're gonna lend us $60 million, they wanna know that we're in good financial shape. And so when I started, Mr. Dix will remember this, our 2007 bonds, our 2007 referendum, we were working on our elementary schools, buying some land for some additional schools. One of the questions they asked me is, does your board have a fund balance policy? And we did not at that time. So I started looking at some other school districts, and that is when we initially, put in place on 1/20/09 the undesignated fund balance. Again, you'll remember, I know Mr. Dukes will remember, 1/20/09 is when we just come out of the 2008 recession. That was a very, very painful time in Anderson School District 5. There was a lot of meetings, it was cutting a lot of people, it was very painful because we did not have fund balance to survive the budget cuts that happened in December until we could get to the new budget as of July 1. So we got some information literally right before we left to go on Christmas break in December of 2007? I think it was 6. No, it wasn't 6 because I came in 2006. It was December of 2007 that we got some information right before we left to go on Christmas break, and we worked that Christmas break to try to figure out what we were gonna do. We got the official word in January, and when we started meeting with staff, we gave them a 2-week notice and told them they would be losing their jobs. That was hard. I know Mr. Dukes will remember that. That was hard, because that was teachers. I was in the classroom. Now, we were very strategic about that, and it was teachers that had retired and would come back to work for us. So it wasn't somebody that had a new family that we were having to cut. We didn't want to cut anybody, but at this point in time, we didn't have an option. Our fund balance percentage was about 7% of our budget. With those cuts, we couldn't have survived until June 30th. And so then, as a leadership team, Dr. Bagley at that time, Mr. Dukes, we wanted to make a decision that we wanted to try to build our fund balance to never have to go through that again, for number one. And number two, it helped with rating agencies when they said, does your board have a fund balance policy? We could say yes. So we drafted this policy, and it was based off what you'll sometimes hear people call GFOA, which is Government Finance Officers Association. If you ever hear the auditor talk, that's what he's talking about. That's what regulates doesn't regulate our accounting procedures, but it gives us our best practices. So it's our governmental accounting practices. And so they say you should not have less than 2 months. At a minimum, you should have 2 months of operating expenses. That's about 16.6%. So our board policy says that we have no less than 16%. If you look down at the bottom there where it says fund balance target, our policy says no less than 16%. And I'm just asking if y'all would consider us changing that to 20%. We're not at that rate right now. We're at 25. I hope we never get to 16%, but there may come a time, or you guys may choose to want to go to a lower rate. I want to do everything I can to be fiscally responsible and protect the board if we have budget cuts in the future, that we can. Mr. Thompson, do you need a copy?
Yeah, I
I'm
probably
sorry.
lost it. I
No,
probably
you're fine.
lost it. It's probably.
I've got,
Sorry to interrupt.
you're fine.
Okay.
So again, this is not something that is required at all. This is just me telling you that I think that it would be fiscally responsible for us to move that to 20%. And then you say, wait a minute, Amy, you know, are you just not wanting us to go into fund balance? That is not the case at all. If we go below whatever we have in our board policy, there is a line there, that very last 20%, that the board can adopt actions to get us back to the 20%. So again, this is really just trying to be protective and trying to be fiscally responsible, but there is no agency that is talking to us about it. But let me show you guys something that's on the second page of your paperwork as well. Our fund balance fluctuates monthly, and that's what we talk about each month when we're talking about the financial statements. And we are as cash flush as we're ever going to be at the end of January. Maybe if something big came in February, but I can't imagine that February is going to be more cash flush than January. And so, obviously, but just because of property taxes. So you can see that after the very first month of the year, we had 26, then we went to 24, then we went to 22. None of that is concerning to me. That is just the typical progression of school district finance. Many moons ago, when we didn't have a healthy fund balance, back in those days of the budget cuts, we used to have to go to the bank and borrow money to make payroll until the property taxes come in. So if you're ever watching a school district, or if it ever happens in Anderson School District 5, if we ever have to come to you and say that we need a TAN, a tax anticipation note, we're just asking to borrow money to make payroll. And a lot of school districts have to do that. We've been lucky enough the last 10 years that we have not had to do that. The last time we did do it, it cost us about $50,000 in interest just to have enough money on hand to make payroll. So I really do try to ensure that you guys know these things, because that $50,000 is a classroom teacher. Or it's the classroom teacher and all the benefits for an assistant. And I don't wanna just give that away to the bank if we don't have to. So that's the reason that I brought this to your attention, is just, it's something for you to think about. If you want us to pursue it, we can. If you don't, Dr. Kelly will just, that this was just me coming to her saying, you know, this is something I would like for us to talk about, but it has no bearings. It would be nice if we ever did do a bond, to come in and say, hey, we know that the GFOA says 16.67, but our board has a stance on, we don't want anything less than 20%. We're trying to be very fiscally responsible. So just something to think about.
Do you think that could affect the interest rate of a bond?
It could.
That, the difference between 16 and 20%?
I think it shows that the board puts an emphasis on ensuring financial stability, so that we wouldn't lose, if we lost one taxpayer, that the board's expectation would be that we would cut it somewhere else, that it would just not hit fund balance and we would lose the money. I think that's what their thought process would be. Because they obviously talk to us about the local economy, our taxpayers, which they get all that from the county auditor and treasurer when we're going through a bond, as well.
So if we had, if the bottom fell out tomorrow and we had that 58 million, that's all we had, how long would that float the district?
Oh, that's a good question, Mr. Smith. Hang on just a minute.
Just curious.
Now, this
How
would
did-
be floating the general fund. So obviously, the 138 is general fund. But we have, Mr. Dukes knows my stance on the other school, or the other funds as well. I try to keep one full year. The state lets us keep one full year, and if somebody needs their grant money, then we don't deny them, obviously. But if I try to keep one full year, so we have a year to plan if the state cuts some money. About 4.5 months.
Okay.
I missed by half. I missed by half.
Yeah,
So-
I'll go back to what Ms. Hurd was saying, when I was kind of shocked back in '09, whenever it was, and we started talking about TAN. That's the first time I heard the term TAN, which is basically a loan to make payroll. It's a little concerning, so this is a very strong fund balance, rainy day fund.
That's when you let me go because of Terry. You told me it was
Miss
Terry.
Clifford, were you in that?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
am so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Those were,
It
those
was
were long,
Terry,
those were
With
long
Terry.
days and
the
nights.
tale of Terry.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am, that's right.
Well, that was a big sticker when I came home, because I was on Terry working, what, 60% or 75% of their salary.
Yes, we did.
75%.
Yeah, when
That
we
was a big
started-
sticker back then, because of the money.
When we started adding them back, the state said you can hire people back and you don't have to pay them their full pay. And we did. We started at 60%, eventually moved it back up to 65%. So, most of you on the board, or I'm sure probably Mr. Thompson may remember, Mr. Mahaffey, that was in personnel. I mean, who doesn't love our old personnel director, Mr. Mahaffey? And, he worked for many years at 60% of his pay, and y'all see what Kelly Elrod does, and Mr. Mahaffey gave that same,
Oh, yeah.
work ethic to this district. And I think of all the years that he worked at that rate, as long as he did.
And never complained.
He never complained.
I came across the minutes in 2017, it went back to 100%.
2017.
So,
Now, I will say, the county board hated that. That was one of their biggest complaints, was you pay those people 100%. If they're coming back and they're in the classroom, or they're administrators, you pay them 100%. But if we have anybody left, and we probably do, I'm trying to think, none of those administrators complained. They all stayed. They all worked at 60%, and none of them were marching up and down the halls to the superintendent saying, I'm not working, or I'm leaving at 4:30 because I only have 60% of my pay. They all work the hours like we all do. So I
So,
just.
Amy, the
Okay.
December to January of 24 to 25, December, January, we not $20 million.
Yes, sir.
Where did that money, that's tax money?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's mostly tax money. There was nothing really big in January other than tax money. And that's not unusual. So that's all I have on DIG. That's just, that'll be in your court. If that's something that you guys want us to do, you can let Dr. Kelly know. We'll obviously bring it forward if you would like it, at any time.
So that would be a recommendation of the finance committee to make this change. Correct, Amy?
I'm sorry?
You're asking the finance committee to,
Yes, sir.
Approved.
If that's something the finance committee would like to do, then yes, you could make the recommendation to the full
Okay.
board that we would do that. But I just, again,
Yeah.
whatever. you-
I don't think we have to vote on that. We can reach consensus if we want to as a committee, so. But I can double check.
You got
I'm good
it.
with doing it.
I agree with that.
I agree.
It's-
I'm not ready at this point, but I don't think that I would be a holdup. If I'd be a holdup, as far as coming from the finance committee, I got a few more questions. I don't want to tie this up.
Okay.
But I'm not quite there.
Okay. All right, so Ms. Leverett, we are moving to what you want to discuss.
Okay. So
I've got,
this is what
Ms.
you-
Leverett and,
Uh-huh.
members, I have a few items, so just hang with me. We're gonna kind of jump up, it's all about teaching assistants, but we're kind of jumping a few different places, on this. The first thing, what you have right there, well, being very, very inconsistent. This is our current salary schedule. If you look on our website for teaching assistants, so the first two columns are our high school diploma. The second two columns is 2-year degree, and the final two columns are a 4-year degree. If you were to look on our website right now and you see this salary schedule, all you see is the annual dollars. We don't share the hourly rates. I will beginning next year, because I know that's something that Ms. Leverett likes, and it's not.
Yeah, 'cause somebody told me they don't make but $13.
Yes, that's not true. The lowest you can make is $14.14, and that would be brand new with no experience anywhere in a high school diploma. But I want to show you this. This is very small, so I hope you'll have very good eyes. So, I got it. I don't think I have this. Let me pull it up. I got it on the screen too, because this may be easier to see on the screen.
You can make it bigger too, Amy, down at the bottom if you wanted to. Enlarge it.
Make it bigger, yeah.
Just thank you.
All right, there's a lot of stuff on here, and I need y'all to hang on with me. It's a little bit complicated, but there was a method to my madness. So Anderson School District 5, well, let me back up. The very far left column, that is high school diploma, lowest step in any school district. So if you have a high school diploma and you are an assistant, what's the lowest you could make? Then the next is the same thing. If you are a high school diploma, what's the highest you could make at the school district? I came on back down to the next one and said, if you have a 2-year degree, what's the lowest you can make, what's the highest you can make? 4-year, highest, lowest, how many days do you work, and how many steps can you get? And I asked my counterparts if they would help fill this information out, and they did. So, you can see, obviously I put our stuff in, and so, as Ms. Leverett was just saying, with a high school diploma, the lowest you can make is $14.14. The highest you can make after 28 years is $21.26. If you have a 2-year degree, you start out at $14.50, and you go to $21.62. If you have a 4-year degree, you start out at $14.86, and you go to $21.99. Now, here's where it gets a little complicated because everybody does something a little differently. So, Anderson 1 says, we don't care if you have a high school diploma, a 2-year degree, or a 4-year degree, this is what you're gonna make. So, they only have information in that top category. So, if you only have one rate, it's always under the high school diploma because that's where they're saying as long as you have a high school diploma, we're good.
Am I correct? Yeah.
But
They
on
mentioned the
this
other day,
sheet right here,
they do the same for principals, they all make the same thing regardless, so it's kind of standard for them.
on the long sheet,
Yes, ma'am?
Anderson 5 for the lowest step is 19, but District 2 is 20.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. So you are right, that's why I want to share this with you. And so, so y'all see, if it says NA, it's because they don't categorize it out like we do. And then you'll see, so we've got Anderson 1, Anderson 2, Anderson 3, Anderson 4, Oconee, Greenwood 50, Newberry, Spartanburg 7, Fort Mill.
Okay, yeah, let's see.
I thought we had Pickens. Oh, no, I couldn't get Pickens to respond. They don't have Pickens. I kept
Okay.
calling them, they would not respond.
Fort Mill makes more too.
So, let me show you this, Ms. Lever. I think this is what you're wanting. If you'll hang on with me right here at this, it might be easier on your screen, on your computer. So what I did is, the lowest step right here, so these A and B, this is everybody that's on that sheet. This is the lowest starting pay of all of these districts and what the annual salary is. So you can see we're the third highest when we first bring you on. So Fort Mill is at the very top, Anderson 2 is ahead of us, and then you can see how everybody falls out down there.
Mm-hmm.
Where some districts are getting us is as you stay in the district, I'm gonna scoot over just a little bit. This is looking at the highest paid. So for Anderson 5, this is a 4-year degree and 28 years of service. And you see that we dropped from the third down here to just slightly below the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So if you stay with us long term, we are not keeping up with
Everybody
the
else.
districts.
Mhm.
Now, let me explain our salary schedules for you. This is our salary schedule booklet. We have had this as long as I've been here. I have tabs. Everything that is a tab is a different salary schedule. And everybody has 28, and they go across and have different categories on what they do. This was designed back in 2006. It was probably designed before then, but I think, I'm not positive. I think one of the last times we've been through it was around 2005, 2006. I think we've had some tweaks to it, but a full-blown salary study, I don't think it's been done for a long time. They are the group that told us back then how much to give between each category. So, I don't know why Anderson 5 fell from being up at the top to down lower as you continued on, and other districts have not. So there are formulas in every single page from the salary study group that we paid a lot of money to come tell us how much everything was worth and how much each step should be worth. And obviously, we have increased it by whatever the board has told us cost of living is to be throughout the years. But I just wanted you to know, we don't arbitrarily say step 13 should get 5% more than step 12. It is a formula that a company did, and it's pretty standard across. We don't go in there and tweak just to make things that we want. What we do, like Ms. Lever, you'll remember, This past year, we said every teaching assistant is getting a $3,000 raise. So we take the base and we give it 3,000, and then those formulas calculate each line item. So we don't go in and say, well, she's been here 12 years, so she gets $450, but she's been here 17 years, so she gets 620. We let all those formulas do all that, so it's not that we're liking people and that we're choosing. It's from a formula that another outside agency set up.
But the steps, there's 28 years.
Yes, ma'am. Should be. It should be. If you started, if you come straight out of high school and you wanted to come to work for us, we would put you on a step 1. If you went to Anderson 2, that wouldn't be a good one because you wouldn't want to come down. If you went to Anderson 1 and you started there at $18,710, and then at year 1, and then you're like, wait a minute, I have a 4-year degree. I'm going to go to Anderson 5. Our step 2 on a 4-year degree would be $20,900. So we would give you a step, if you were in the teaching assistant's position in another school district and you came to us, we would give you that credit. So some people may come and be on a step 10 because they may have come from another school district, they've been in a child care center being an assistant. If it's similar work duties, you might not start as a step 1.
Okay.
So, and if Ms. Leverett, if you look down at the very bottom of your sheet there, I did it for annual salary, I did the same thing for hourly, and some school districts swapped places when you looked at annual versus hourly rate, but we did not. We stayed exactly the same. And you say, well, Amy, why would you not stay exactly the same? Because the number of steps can dictate what your hourly rate is. So some people are gonna max out at 20, but it takes you 28 years here before you max out. Now, I know, Ms. Leverett, you're like, they'd rather get there sooner at 20. Yes, ma'am, but when you can't retire till you're 28, they don't like spending their last 8 years without a pay increase. So it's kind of it's something that we really have to think about. We have that issue with Anderson 1. They outpace us in some of our pay scales, but it's because as soon as they hired me, they put me at the very top. I don't get any more raises. I might get cost of living adjustments, but I'm at the top. Where we give room for growth throughout. So that's something that the board could make a decision on and say, we want to follow the Anderson 1 model. I've got this comparison that you see right here on many job duties titles that we have in our district. I would say.
So if you got the NAs, that means that they just got one salary
Yes, sir.
schedule,
If
no
you
matter
were
what.
right at the top of this, if we're going across the top there, Dr. Kelly and I did this just to help us. So Anderson 5, we have 3 salary schedules for assistants. Anderson 1 has 1, Anderson 2 has 1, Anderson 3 has 1. So they don't designate. They don't care if you have a 4-year degree or a high school diploma. Anderson 4 also designates. They have 3. Oconee has 2. Greenwood 50 has 3. Newberry has 3. Spartanburg 7 has 3. Fort Mill has 1. Aiken has 1. Orangeburg has 3. And Abbeville has 1.
If
So
I
you
counted
have-
those, I'm sorry. go ahead,
Okay,
Madam.
no, I just started talking.
Yeah, I did the same thing. So you got 6 with 3 levels and 6 with 1 level. But looking at the high end of, where was it? You had it over here, where actually the longer you stay, the 4-year people actually losing money hourly rate. That's, yeah.
Yes, they are because I see it under
How much turnover do we have with teaching assistants?
We have turnover.
Not much, and usually people stay.
They do stay. I mean, we do have some turnover. For us, and Dr. Kelly, if I'm speaking incorrect information, what we typically see is we get some folks right out of school and that, just want to come straight into a state system. We get folks that their spouse may own their own business and they need health insurance. So they love being with kids and, you know, in family health insurance is gonna be close to $20,000 next year or more. And so that is a big chunk that they might make 25,000, but they're not paying out that 20,000, so that rate suddenly gets way up there. So I think once we get them in, we don't have a lot of turnover. What happens a lot of times is they're promoted into other positions inside the district. You may end up going to a secretarial position.
That's more days.
Yeah.
It's more days, yes. And we have a lot of that with, food service staff, bus drivers that may work less days, and when positions come open that work more days, that means more salary. It may not be that the hourly rate's that much more, it's just more days, and so it's more money.
And I see Anderson One is the only one that pays $190, the same contract
Yes.
length of a teacher. Everybody else is $185 or $180.
Yeah, I was really surprised about Oconee, that was 180.
Yeah.
Because we're doing professional development with our teaching assistants. And so we, you know, that's why they're here for our extra days is for training and time with their teachers.
And the teacher, yeah, that's the key.
A quick question, the 190 days, like Anderson One is working 190 days.
Yes, sir.
Do they have to work 190 days to get 1817?
Yes, sir.
And we only have to work 185 days to get 1964.
And that's why, anytime you hear people talk about salaries in education, I'm always like, let's talk about the days, let's talk about the days. Because there are teachers that, in this current year right now, that could make $91,735. That's for 190 days. So our biggest contract length is 240. So that same person that works entire year is $115,600. So I know sometimes we talk about folks that make less money, but some folks are working 60 less days than other folks.
But then sometimes these, teaching assistants are moved from room to room or from wherever. And now, I think what I've heard that you have to clock in and clock out,
Yes, ma'am.
where you usually didn't do that.
Well, they've always had to write it down. By IRS regulations, we've always had to keep up with time.
Well, secretary usually did that. Well, when you came in, but that's,
I don't go to jail.
yeah, but $14.14. It's just look like to me that we could make more money than that. Even that's just a high school diploma. And especially if you got a 2-year degree, you're gonna make $14.50.
We will be glad to calculate whatever you would like. That's why we wanted to show you this, is so you could see where we were as compared to everybody else. And then,
We're still more than everybody else.
No, not District 1.
Well,
I mean, two.
I did the calculation, Rick, when you were talking about, so in Anderson one, because they have to work, 5 more days, they get paid $98 a day. Where in Anderson 5, they only have to work 185 days, so they get paid $106 a day.
So the
no,
daily,
that, which Anderson 1 as well has 32 steps. So we were just talking about a lot of times Anderson 1 comes in and puts you on the top. So we really have a method to our madness when we hire people about experience and where we try to locate them under Dr. Kelly and under Dr. Kelly and with Ms. Elrod, they have a formula and we try to locate them. Where in Anderson 1, they can come in and say, I really need this person, I like this person, I'm putting them on step 32, and they stay there. That's not what we've done in the past, but that's always an option for us as well. So then, Ms. Leverett, if you go back to this sheet that I'm gonna put in the salary book next year that's on the website, you know, depending on what the philosophy of hiring is, they can make more than 14. If we say everybody comes in at step 5. But we'd have to know that directive, and then we're gonna have to go calculate what that raise is gonna be for everybody, and what that cost would be to the budget. Or you can say, I want high school hourly step 1 to start at 15, and then you run it through your formula. So you can see like step 1 to step 2 under your hourly high school rate, 37 and 6, 43 cents. So that's a 43 cents. So if you went to $15 on that first one, the second one would be $15.43, and so forth all the way down. But just being very transparent in this room with all of us, because I know y'all would wanna know, and you're gonna get the questions. When we do that, then culinary's gonna be in line, custodian's gonna be in line. Our RNs already don't feel like,
They're not
they're not,
equal.
they're not, and they're one of the groups I've looked at, so I do have that information already on RNs.
And now, 3 years ago, we made some major changes to those, like we upped nurses, we upped bus drivers, we upped.
Bus drivers, we're at the top.
And
I
it
mean, we're
was,
very
it
high on
was
bus
big
drivers.
numbers that we upped, okay? So, you know, if you look at their pay schedules now, it was a whole lot less 3
Yeah.
years ago.
Some districts pay nurses like teachers. We're not one of them.
Did you raise, because I met with Wes and Dennis Kent, we walked some buildings, and Dennis was saying that the custodians, apparently, was that increased some? Anyway, we're not short custodians because the pay has
No.
gotten better.
Yeah.
Custodians start at $13 an hour.
Wow.
We did raise it, we were
Raise it.
11.
Right, there
And
you
we
go.
did go to 13. But
He said that made all the difference in the world.
And see, isn't that funny? But they are still they are the lowest paid. Them and culinary are
Mhm.
still the lowest paid. And again, a lot of that is due to the number of days.
Culinary
just-
needs to get started fixing their frozen food.
Oh,
Maybe
God.
my papers are not cooperating. I'm sorry.
Instead
she
of
started
fries and
$15
chicken, they might can get some more.
Yeah, they were saying that he went from being
Oh, I
short
forgot I was gonna
custodians
say.
to having an excess of
And
applicants,
last
which is a
year-
good problem to have.
Last year, we increased electricians, multi-craft. We increased one category, I believe it was something electrical,
Mhm.
that, they could come out of Tri-County Tech and just go in making a whole lot more than us, so we tried to just come in and match the rate. We might not even match it, we might have been a little lower because of all our benefits.
Mhm.
But we tried to get a little closer. I think they got like a $2 raise.
Mhm.
But it was a particular grouping that he could just not keep people in. It was a revolving door. That was part of the budget process that we shared with everybody.
And I see too that you have 185 days, but during the day of teaching, you feel as though the sub is not doing much as the teacher is doing. Or you feel the sub doesn't have as much, responsibility, or making sure that the child is on grade level, making sure that the child
I
knows.
wish every sub.
We're talking about the teaching assistant or the sub?
The teaching assistant,
Teaching
that's what we on
assistant.
now.
Yes, no, the
Uh-huh.
teacher's assistant is like a support, so they're not given the same responsibilities or requirements as teachers. They're there just to offer support.
Oh,
So you're
it's
asking me if
really
they
have changed, support of what?
like the teacher, so if the teacher needs her to work with a 2 or 3 children while she has the whole group, because some children, might need additional assistance in, I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
trying to think like kindergarten, some might need additional assistance getting ready to go to lunch and things like that. So if you're asking, does the teacher and the teaching assistant have the same responsibilities? No, ma'am, they do not.
Oh, my God.
The
Nor
other
same
thing that-
credentials.
The other thing that you talked about too, Ms. Leverett, is the teaching assistants do have to clock in and clock out.
Mhm.
However, every minute they stay over what they're required to stay, we pay them. We don't pay them. They either get paid or they get comp time. Okay. So we prefer comp time because we didn't build the budget for them to choose to stay over 30 minutes to get a bigger paycheck next week. But teachers have to do all the activities at night, setting up their rooms, staying and grading papers, and they can work as many hours as they as the principal.
Well, yeah, it
is-
has changed. It has changed, cause I graded papers. It has changed. It has really changed.
I don't think that's the expectation of a
No,
teaching
no,
assistant.
Oh, okay.
Ms. Hurd, go back to that table that showed the 4-year assistants and where they fell as the years went down, that one.
Okay? You want the hourly or the annual?
Hourly.
Okay?
So, to get in line, what percent would we have to increase that to
So it
get
looks
closer?
like we need to
Because that's
get
10 would be
one
two,
comma.
20% would be $4. Anderson 4 is 26, 25.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, I think it would take somebody. We can change that base by whatever percentage, but then it's gonna, I don't know how to go in and get each category. We would need to change the top line and then it trickles
Does it
down.
everything else?
Yes, everything is up in all those things.
Now you talking about the $14.81.
I
Um,
think he's
top.
trying to get us, you're trying to get back up in line like right here at the top.
Yes, somewhere in there,
quadrant.
yeah, maybe not 26, but, you know, in the 23
So like
range.
$1.75. We'd probably get, so, let's just do this right here. And then we know we would go a little bit higher than them. So $1.50, that would be, Mr. Duke's asking what you're saying, I would put $1.50 on this,
Mhm.
which, let's see what that would be. I would put a second.
Mhm.
And then we probably would end up being close, we'd probably still be, we'd be third here, so we would be second in the lowest and third here. But then we wouldn't be way down here.
So would it be too much trouble to take the pay scale and add $1 an hour across the board, $1.50 an hour across the board, $2 across the board, and then estimate what that would
If it's all
cost
right
us?
with you, that's kinda what I do with teachers, if it's all right with you, pleasure of y'all, I would like to do a dollar, and then I can easily multiply times 1.5 times 2,
Gotcha.
and get it.
How many teaching assistants do we have?
I knew somebody was gonna ask me that. We looked at this when we changed the schedule from just because 2 years ago, we were just like those others that only had one. And this, I know that was really important to Ms. Leverett for us to go to high school 2-year and 4-year. So next year we'll be starting our 3rd year of that. 200-ish
Okay.
teaching assistants. We had to do a lot of
Just had
work
no
at that
idea.
point, so that's
That's a
why
lot.
we had to go get everybody's credentials to see where do you fall.
Yeah.
And to make sure we categorized right, so I think it was about 200, we can find out the
That's
exact
fine,
number.
I had no idea how many.
So
The
when I was
biggest
asking
one
her,
that
she
we
could
have
turn that,
turnover in, which is
add
not gonna
$1 to
surprise
that,
any
add
of y'all,
$1.50 to
especially
that, add $2 to
That's
that.
hard.
What would it do
That's
to
a
this whole
hard-
thing? 'Cause
hard
you
job.
gotta,
Very
you
demanding.
have to add that,
Yeah, it's very
all these other
demanding.
numbers.
I know when
and then
Esser bought the
what would that
playgrounds
cost
that we
us?
put in
But I
McLeese and
think that
Midway,
would be- I think they
we
need
had
that.
Dr. Kelly, I know Mr. Price was there,
That
we had the
would be
opportunity to go
15,
out and watch the
14.
ribbon cutting and to watch those teachers and the assistants. The
Physically
amount of
demanding.
work they had to do, I
Add a
was
dollar, let's see what we do.
amazed
Let's
at
say
how
how
much
much
$1.50
they
do across the
do.
board.
I mean,
Okay.
You know, I
it's a
want
lot.
$2. I'm sorry, we're having a
Oh, no, you're good.
sidebar.
Y'all are good. We were just talking about, if the turnover, most of our turnover that does occur at the assistant level is special ed assistants.
Yeah,
It's
that's another
demanding.
thing.
The
Mhm.
kids are, sometimes the kids are rough on those people.
Oh,
So they have
yeah.
to have a heart for it. They're getting bit, they're getting hit.
Mhm.
It's.
They're getting spit.
For $14 an hour. So it's hard. Spit on,
That's the worst.
I mean,
Kicked.
kids, I
That's
mean,
right.
Yep.
we've
Yeah.
Bite.
had some horror stories. And so that's why we try to put enough support in those classrooms to try to help cover that. But it is a hard, especially it's hard, but that's probably where our biggest turnover is. We don't have much turnover in kindergarten assistants or,
What do you have now? 'Cause see, I did 3rd grade. I used to do 3rd grade and 4th grade. And then kindergarten.
now, we wouldn't have 3rd and 4th grade assistants if they were not in academic assistants of some sort, academic assistants, TS, not NCE, helping. If you're in the upper grades now, you're probably giving interventions to children in small groups or something like that.
Mhm.
That's a perfect segue. If y'all don't mind, I'm gonna jump into one more. Ms. Wright, I promise I think this will be it. I am gonna keep one. I don't mind.
Cause this sheet here was only in academic, it wasn't in, special ed. Or you saying the special ed people make the same thing
Yeah, the
too?
special
It's
ed
the
make the
same
same
thing.
thing, yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
So it's about what, 50 kindergarten teachers, so that's 50. We got 200, so that's a lot of, 2 pages? So 200 assistants, that's more than I would have guessed.
And I may be wrong on that.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah.
best guess. But we have a lot of, what I'm fixing to show you, you'll
Yeah.
see, we have some, a good bit of assistance. And this didn't count on the special ed.
Ah, this is good.
Oh, I know.
All right. Okay, so one sheet is the key here, because I'm sure from my new folks, y'all know that in education, we love some acronyms. That even I still sometimes have to say, what does that stand for? So I wanted to share that with you. Mr. Dukes, you have seen this, some of this. We could change it a little bit. But I just wanted to share this with you because you'll start seeing some of these acronyms as we go through. And then everything that I'm sharing with you here is really gonna be on the next page that you see. So what we did was we looked at those teaching assistants that we just have been talking about, excluding special ed.
okay.
So we don't have any special ed listed here. This is all general fund, regular ed. I won't say general fund because there is some Title I. But this is, regular education classes. And what we did was broke it down by school so you could see what the schools have. So if we start at the top, and I don't know if it's easier for your sheets, sometimes these sheets start getting a little long, or if you prefer on your computer, but we start at the top, it's Calhoun.
Mhm.
So Calhoun has 4 teaching assistants. 2 of them teach reading, they're reading interventionists. 1 is an instructional support assistant, so they support all grade levels. And 1 is what we call a tutor. For those of you who've been around for a while, that was the ESSER tutor. We just kept the name, but we took the ESSER part out of that. And that is a part-time person. It depends on if you have your teaching certificate or if you don't as to what you're paid. And the principals get them 25 hours a week. So looking at Calhoun, you see what kind of assistant they are, you see the core area. If we scroll on over to the right, certification required, that's just, is it a required to have your credential? And so for these, no, but some of them do. If you look at the 3rd one down on Calhoun, you'll see that that is a certified person.
That
Now-
GL,
I'm sorry?
GF?
Yes,
Is that what you're
GF
talking
means
about?
general
General
fund.
fund.
So that's what
Okay.
you guys see and talk about all the time. That person, so whoever's,
It's kind of small.
yes.
That makes $20 an hour, I see.
Certified.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that certified person should, if the 3rd column down, keep going over, they make $30,000 a year. So they, obviously, I can tell by that salary, have been with us for a long time. Because that's back to what we were just looking at, they're making $30,000. You see their benefits, so that particular person is an assistant with us that costs $46,000, full-time. So then if you keep on coming over to the right, you see that they're full-time. TS means they fill out a timesheet, and however they're funded, so the Title I person, they get 25 hours a week. The tutor, we left at 25 hours a week as well. Sometimes the principal may not have enough money for 25 hours a week, so they may get 20 hours a week. The principals designate that part if it's Title I. If it's a general fund, that's more of a district level decision that we make for the school. We don't dictate how the schools make those 25 hours. We just say you have the opportunity to use them for 25 hours.
Is that where they came in and they was talking about they needed the teacher to be somewhere else and somebody be in the cafeteria or something?
No, ma'am, that's
That's
something
different.
completely different. That's,
Lunch money.
unencumbered lunchtime.
Yeah.
Now, this is that ESSER you was talking about?
ESSER is gone now completely, but that's what tutor stands for. That, they used to be paid out of ESSER, and now they're paid out of the general fund. That was something that the board decided last year that we were seeing, positive impacts on, so we wanted to keep that. Now, for the tutors and for the Title I folks, if you're a full-time employee, you're falling in the salary book somewhere. So you've gone through human resources, you're getting benefits, you are in this book. If you're part-time, then it depends on if you're certified or not. If you're a non-certified, high school diploma, four-year college degree, but if you don't have your teaching certificate, you get $20 an hour. If you are a teacher that's retired and maybe wants to come back and help, you get $30 an hour. So that'll be the different rates. So you guys have this, I'll let you look at it, but you can see, so Calhoun has 4, they are a Title I school. Centerville has 6, and then if you look over in column G, at least on my column G, I know y'all don't have column headings, you will see that 4 of those are Title I funded.
Okay.
And so 2 of them are general fund. So then Concord's next, and they only have 2. Now, what we did not include here is every single school has a technology assistant that helps with technology, but they're not academic. We tried to only include non-special ed academic assistants. And because every school has the technology assistant. So Concord has 2, Homeland Park has 4, McLeese has 2, Midway has 2, Nevitt Forest has 4, New Prospect has 4.
Before you flip, Amy, go back to Centerville.
Yes, sir.
Right in the middle, number of assistants column, you got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You got 6 listed over to the side. Is that right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You got a 2 in the, Centerville's got, does it have 2
Oh, I
readings?
see what
2
you're
certified readings?
I am so sorry. Yes, sir. I was counting down. I did not see that. That may be the case in other places too. Thank you for the connection.
Well, the only one the other, Vernis is,
Vernis,
Vernis
yes,
is
sir.
off too. 7 and 4, so.
Yes, sir. You're right. Thank you so much for that.
That's okay. So is Centerville doing the same thing or similar things with their assistants or scheduling, strategy-wise as Vernis?
No, each principal looks at their needs and looks at their data to determine how they need to utilize. So Centerville is using a lot of theirs to determine the children, and I know what you're referring to. Danessa uses her classroom teacher to serve the most at risk. A lot of hers, let me look back at it. If you'll notice, Centerville's, she has, out of those 7, she has 2, 3, 4, 5 of those that are certified. So because her teaching assistants are certified, they do pull the lowest children. Yes, but you're right, with the non-certified, they don't do that, but you're right, yes.
And Vanessa's are non-certified.
Correct,
Mhm.
correct, yes.
Most of Centerville's are Title I funded. And it's actually, a lot of those were teachers at Centerville.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, Centerville had to present to us for, a plan, and Vernis went from what, below average to good?
She went to below average to good 2 years ago, but she
Right.
dropped from good to average, even though her academic
Right.
achievement went up.
But
Yes,
she did make that gain.
yes.
Okay,
And so obviously on here, if they are full-time, it is a person that I have associated a name with, so all of the information is accurate. The benefits might be a little off because we had some supplemental insurance from the time I pulled this, like this was at that time. So if they're full-time, when I ran this information, that was the package that they had. So you could just see how, some assistants are 36,000, some are 27,000, some are 51,000. It truly depends on years of service and benefits, that benefits piece of, see, this one right here is $25,000 in benefits. Sure, they have full family coverage, so,
If you look at Verena's,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
88,000.
That's for 4 people. Yes, sir. Mr. Dukes, we hope this might be helpful for you because we weren't sure exactly how you wanted to allocate the teaching assistants that you were mentioning adding.
Oh, this is very
to the
helpful.
budget.
My,
Um,
my biggest concern looking at this is what you guys were talking about with title and who goes title, because I'd be looking, I mean, $1 million to add 25 assistants or 24 assistants, I think, would be general fund, and mixing general fund with title and all of that, you know, all that inner workings. So, we may need Kim.
And she'll be glad to come anytime. Now, you have to remember, with supplanting,
And,
our issue is that we can't give it to non-title and not give it to
well, you might can answer this then. So we've got Title I funds going to the reading, the RIs.
yes, sir.
So if we funded, say 24 assistants out of the general fund, we could pay them through general fund and call them an RI.
If
We'd be
we- no,
mixing.
sir, no, we can't do that.
Okay, that's what I thought.
If we are going to hire teaching assistants, they are going to be that ISA, Instructional Support Assistant. Because that's what we have at every school. Now, what we can tell the principals, and where I need Kim to get a little,
Yeah.
creative, is you are exactly, I know where you're going. If, for everybody, if Title I, so let's just use Calhoun because they're right here at the top. Title I has reading interventionist. If we give Concord, Midway, McLeese, any non-Title I school a position, and we call it a reading interventionist position, everybody that Title I pays for that has that same title, we have to pick up in the general fund. So Mr. Dukes, I'm just using this as an example, those 24, if he said, I want, we have 11 elementary schools, I want everybody to have 2, and then I want the 2 below average schools to get 2 more. If we call them reading interventionists, then we're gonna come back in here and have to pick up so those 24 might end up being 35.
Mhm.
So sometimes that's why we have to get a little creative with names.
Yeah, originally I was thinking all the title schools plus McLeese, but that complicates things because they're not titled. They may go title though, right?
They could.
They're getting close. Okay.
They are getting
So-
close.
But still mixing the general fund with the
Now,
title.
what we can do is you can give McLeese another instructional support assistant. And then Miss Mills can say, I need you to focus on reading.
Mhm.
Title's not getting into that. It's just, the title can't say
Sure.
reading interventionist.
And we gotta find the money.
Well, I think that, I mean, we're early, and, I think it's gonna be a good year. I hope it's gonna be a good year. We're positive. It's budget time.
I just have one question.
Sure.
These, on years where employees get bonuses, do these teaching assistants get those?
Yes, sir. Everybody in the.
Part-time?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody does.
Thank you.
And so obviously to those folks, it is huge.
Yeah.
$1,500 to somebody that makes $14 an hour is big.
Thank you.
If they're part-time, if you work 15 hours, as long as you work 15 hours a week, and that's an average. So if you happen to be, if we didn't hire you till, if you didn't hire you till late, we only look at the time you were hired. We're not gonna punish you if we didn't hire you in January and it was for the whole year, because that would bring your hours down. But if for some reason you had to take medical leave and you were out during that time, you know, we try to err on the side of the employee. But yes, sir, it's everybody, bus drivers, culinary, food service.
Well, it's everybody that has returned. The
Yes.
board in the past has given that as a recruiting tool. So if you're a brand-new employee, you do not get
That is
that.
correct.
Yes.
That is correct. It is for coming
But now the
back
board can
every
change
year.
that
Gotcha.
in the past, that's what it's been.
It's about $2.5 million for returning employees, with all the benefits that are associated with that. And again, if you work 15 to 29 hours, it's $750. And if you work 30 hours or more, the last 2 years has been $1,500. We've done 600, we can do 200, whatever the pleasure of the board is, we will calculate and tell you what that cost is. I think our employees will be grateful for $100.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that Mr. Price says they will not, but
Joe would. You know I wouldn't.
if it's better than nothing. No, it's not, okay. Any other questions for me? Or I've got the directive to work on, the dollar, and then we can extrapolate that out to other costs for assistance. We will be beginning to start working on our, teachers' pay and staff pay. I'll do the same thing with staff outside of, assistants. And I'll do a 1%, and then I'll have it calculated out what 1% is, 2%, 3, 4, so the board can see all those costs and y'all determine what you would like for the budget. We'll start on that next.
So that's, really, that's the only action item for you guys, is that pay scale for the teaching assistants, $1.
Okay?
But you can make it, tell us what $1.50 and $2 would be.
Yes, sir. I
Okay,
will do
that'd be
that.
great, thank you. And, going back to policy DIG, we'll just put that under unfinished business, Bill, and and we can bring it back up next time.
Okay.
That'd be good.
Okay, now while we doing that, while we doing that, you said for Bill, you said over there for this DIG.
Right.
This.
Well, I think,
Oh, okay, 'cause they wanted to know if we could give them the 20%, okay.
but that you would make that committee recommendation to the board, is, right?
Right,
All
that's what,
And I'm not,
yes, they want to think
you would
about
need
it.
consensus to do that?
No, you
Or
said
do
you
you just
didn't
need
need
a
it for this.
majority, or you need a consensus?
Majority consensus.
I don't wanna hold it up.
Not here
Just-
today though, right?
No, you
Mm-mm.
would present it in March.
It's
It's
not-
not
okay.
earth shaking, just something we need to look at.
Yeah, the full board has to do it.
Yeah.
So, we can continue to revisit that. So, thank you, Amy.
Sure.
Yes,
anytime.
sir.
Okay. That's it for that. The plans for future meetings, how did you like this and like tonight for this meeting? It's a little late, buddy. Late, buddy.
Welcome to my world.
Mhm.
Madam Chair, I appreciate you establishing this committee. This is a good for, especially for new board members, to get a lot of information flowing. I like it. I appreciate you establishing it.
Yeah.
And, I know a lot of times I'm wondering how to, maybe whether to get something on the normal agenda or discuss it. And I think this is a good, medium in order to get some information. And then if the board as a whole during a meeting wants to refer something to a committee, then if this one's established, it could, be useful, in my opinion, so.
I would concur, thank you. So I'm,
Did you want me to say that?
Yeah, no, say that again. What did
Yes,
you
ma'am.
say?
I-
That we need to meet like this for what now? What did you say?
I just thought it was, good to have this committee because, especially for new board members needing, more information or
Yeah.
more information than some of the, other members that have been around a while. And then when the regular board meets, this is a good spot. If we have some item we want the committee to look at, then the regular board can refer that to this committee.
Good.
And, maybe not have 3 and 4 hour board meetings. We
Okay.
get worn out and we
I
get
understand.
unproductive, so.
well, a
Okay.
case in point is just what we've asked Ms. Hurd to do with the teaching assistants and doing a scenario where she raises, the hourly rate.
Mhm.
If she were to do that in our office and bring it to us in a board meeting, it would just catch us cold and it could take forever and a lot of bouncing about it. If we can get it settled here, look at it, weigh the pros and the cons for that, and then come out of committee with a recommendation for the board. We save a lot of time, we save a lot of effort, and everybody's a lot clearer.
Okay.
So I would, I'd like to see us do this until we get through the budget process, perhaps every week or every other week.
Okay, well, what time, afternoon is better for most everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It is for me.
Okay, well, good. That sounds good. And so we're looking at 7 o'clock.
At 7 o'clock or earlier?
Seven.
Earliest you have me here.
Hmm.
7's earliest you have me here.
7 o'clock.
7
Okay,
o'clock.
7 o'clock meet next Tuesday at 7, is that good?
Amy will be out of town at a finance conference,
Okay.
so
Hopefully we'll be getting information on the budget.
Right, I've got some, I pulled data that's on the county board, on the 5 districts and their salary schedules. So that's something we could look at, just like we looked at the teaching assistants. And where you've done the comparison across the board, we can do that for those 5. Look at it's 50,000 and above, so it's gonna be your administrators. And, yeah, I
The
will-
county board report specifically says no teachers. usually every teacher makes at least
Yeah,
50,000.
right.
So I know that's something that is not clear out there, but our instructions from the county board is exclude all teachers.
Okay.
So I just wanna make sure that it's not like that we don't have teachers making $50,000.
So that's something we could look at.
Now, you said next Tuesday, that's the 4th, now that's when county council,
True.
city council meet. Wasn't that you saying something about changing something because city council was meeting?
Yeah, several people have brought that up to me and brought it up to Mr. Thompson about the county council conflict with the regular board meeting, they meet on the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday. So, but that's something we can deal with in May, when we plan for next year's board meetings. So, I'd like to meet next week if y'all can do that, if it's okay, the pleasure of
I
Madam
don't know
Chair
that
and
you'll have the
everybody else.
salary comparison ready because you're going out of town.
She can-
No, I've got that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I pull that from the county board,
Okay.
from what they've got posted. That's current, right? Okay. Yeah.
So you're
I
saying,
would just be mindful again that contract days may be different, there could be some differences.
Were those, was that on their contract days?
It might be.
Yeah.
Can't remember if we put that on there or not.
so
'Cause we did
7
that
o'clock
for-
again,
we did.
March the 4th. And we're still studying the salaries.
Salaries. Mm-hmm.
And what would be the procedure for getting us to discuss something? Like, would I just make a recommendation, or another board member that's not on the committee make a recommendation that we discuss something, or does anybody?
Yeah, board agenda, I mean, this committee agenda,
Yeah.
you guys.
Make it that,
Okay.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
recommended to Madam Chair?
Okay, thank you.
And that be given to all board members?
Yeah, it's public hearing.
It was
It's public. It's
sent,
all
Ms.
posted.
Wright sent it to all board members. Yeah.
Must have done it.
But we will continue to do that, yes.
Yeah, please do.
The only thing I will ask is if we do add things, please just remember it may take me a little time to calculate stuff.
Sure. Oh,
That's
yeah.
all,
Oh, yeah.
that's my only request is that
Oh, yeah.
some of them I might have to do a
So
little
we
work.
don't have anything for tonight to put on there for next Tuesday, we're gonna discuss it again. over
We
the
can
phone.
look at, Anderson's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I don't wanna say administrator salary schedules, I guess it would be all administrators, since teachers are off of that.
Administrative salaries.
I think we do have like not custodian, maintenance.
Mhm.
It's got, that particular schedule has everybody as a fee, so we do have some maintenance staff on there.
Okay.
Okay, and anything else that I
I'll-
call you,
I'll email that to you.
okay. Okay, is there anything else?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
I'm in favor of adjourning.
We didn't pray, let's pray now. We
Amen.
didn't pray then. Oh, Heavenly Father, thank you for this meeting. Thank you for putting our minds together so that we can do the best that we can for our community, for our teachers and our children. Oh, Heavenly Father, as we travel this road back to our houses, please be with us, oh Heavenly Father. Just be with us as we get home and get there safe. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.